Welcome to Minutes with Mango, Life in Motion. I'm your host, Johnny Mango. This is the place where we inquire about lifestyle, culture, and careers. Weekly, we meet with new guests that make a contribution of their insightful stories about their careers and how those careers impact their lifestyle and culture. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Minutes with Mango. This is Johnny, and today we have a pretty interesting guest. She's a licensed therapist, best-selling author. She's an expert in human sexuality, and she's authored 12 books, including the Tantric Mystery Series and Shortcuts to Mindfulness. Catherine's advanced training in both traditional and spiritual psychology has benefited thousands of clients over the span of more than 30 years, and she's currently pursuing a PhD in transpersonal psychology while authoring an upcoming book. So I would really like to welcome Catherine Auman. Hello, Catherine. Welcome.
Hey, Johnny. Thanks for inviting me to be on the show.
Yeah, well, thank you. So, Catherine, let's start by what we always do here at Minutes with Mango. Tell us a little bit about yourself. So, how did you get into the psychology world? What brought you? How did you? You've obviously done a lot. So, what got you interested in it?
Well, like a lot of psychologists, I came from a challenging childhood, and I was in therapy, trying to heal myself and get over that. And I was in therapy so long, I decided I want to study how to do this because I think therapy is really wonderful for helping people not only get over their childhood if it was difficult, but also to handle life and become the best person you can be.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I wanted
Well,
to be
good.
in that line of work.
Yeah. So, how did you become a excuse me, an expert in human sexuality?
Well, like a lot of people, I was quite interested in sex. And when I was in my 20s, I was in a bookstore and I saw a book that said sex is spiritual. And I went, what? I want to know more about that because it always seemed to me there was something more to sex that they weren't telling us, or maybe they didn't even know themselves. And
Right.
I was curious what that was, what that special magic was. So I set out to study both in books and in personal experience what might be spiritual about sex. And that led me to Tantra, which is really about sacred sexuality.
Right. And I really like to dive into that today. Can you give us a definition of tantra for my audience to
Sure.
understand a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I like the phrase sacred sexuality for it because it's strange how Tantra has gotten the reputation that it's kind of sleazy and it's kind of about big mega orgasms and having sex in pretzel postures and stuff. And some people may do that under the umbrella of Tantra, but what I've studied is that it's about people who are looking for closer connection. Love equals sex. Sex equals love. How can we be closer, more intimate? How can we actually make love instead of just use each other to get off and have orgasms, which there's nothing wrong with if people want to do that. This is just kind of like apples and oranges. It's like we want to put the intimacy and the connection first.
So it's
Touch
about it's about the connection and the
is about the
intimacy.
connection versus just the techniques.
Right, right. So, what are some of the misconceptions about tantra? Just what do people get confused about, or because it's kind of a I don't know, interesting topic.
I think what the misconceptions are that it's about a lot of things which are kind of outside the mainstream. So people think it's about group sex, polyamory, having a lot of lovers, uh, doing a lot of things publicly. And all those things I don't have a judgment on, but they're not at all in part of my tantric practice. That my husband and I are monogamous, and um, we use the tantra philosophy to become closer and closer and to develop a very intimate relationship. So I think that
Right.
misconceptions are that tantra is anything but love, and what we find is that it really is all about love.
Right. Okay. So I think you kind of hit it right there on the nail. I can see how that kind of can get twisted around because the whole sex thing is in the middle of it. And what you're talking about is, something more spiritual.
Yes, absolutely. So I think that a lot of people, perhaps everyone, has had a moment when they have been making love with someone and they realize, oh, this went beyond a little bit. Well, where is that beyond? Well, we might call that a spiritual experience.
Right. Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, what is there a relationship between spiritual and physical energy? In
well,
your work, have you ever discovered that? That is there a distinction?
well, some people say that they're the same energy, that spiritual energy is just more refined energy, and that this physical energy is more dense. So, whereas we might, uh,
So so it's about a density.
that's what I've heard. That's the thing that I've read that makes the most sense to me. I can't say I'm an expert on that question, but that's what
Right.
makes sense to me.
Okay. Alright, and so Tantra is really about the spiritual connection between people, and, how does one how does one introduce Tantra in their relationship, in their life, and with others?
Well, it can start by starting to just be more aware of this moment, dropping down from our head, dropping our awareness into our bodies, and just be noticing that, oh, I'm so busy in my head, like everybody is, looking at social media and looking at this and that and reading this and that. And we get so uh, uh, identified with our what we're seeing that we forget that we have all five senses and we're in our bodies also. So if we
Yeah,
can become aware in this moment about, oh, I'm sitting in this chair or laying on this couch or driving this car. What do I smell? What do I hear? What do I um leaving out here, touch in addition to what I'm seeing, that starts to have a more tantric awareness of life if I'm in touch with all of my senses or more than one of my senses in this moment.
so
So,
it's about being present.
it's totally about being present and developing that ability to be more present. Some people
Mm,
would call that mindfulness practices. So, developing a sense of mindfulness. And then when you're with your beloved, when you're making love, you would be what we call sexual mindfulness, which is being present rather than trying to rush through to get to the goal point.
right, right, trying to get to the end, to the fireworks.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
this is about working up to the fireworks, not being in the fireworks. Is that what I'm hearing?
well, if the fireworks happen or don't, we're still okay because we're so much in this moment being with this partner, enjoying
Okay.
the all the sensual senses, the sounds, the taste, the feeling of the skin, and that's really what we're trying to do is be totally present with that in this moment.
Yeah, so it's kind of a collapse of time is what I'm hearing from you.
It's a collapse and an expansion at the same time. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, yeah.
Time kinda collapses, it's just this moment, but then the feeling is that that moment is infinite at the same time.
Uh-huh.
So it kinda
Okay.
takes you into a whole different consciousness.
Wow. And how does just one start this? What does one do to get into tantra to just be present in life with your partner?
Well, that's a good place to start. Another very simple exercise that we teach to people in a beginning tantra class is to just sit and look in each other's eyes. And this can be really hard to do. I used to ask my counseling students to just sit and look at each other's eyes, and I'd put a timer on for 1 minute, and they'd be giggling and looking away. It's too hard to just look in another person's eyes. And when I was studying Tantra in India, we did it for like 20 minutes, and everyone was just crying because to look into another person's eyes deeply, you can't help but fall in love with them. You,
Really?
you see their soul.
Yeah.
So one thing you can do to start experimenting with Tantra is just sit with your partner or when you're making love, just gaze into each other's eyes. Notice that that is uncomfortable or if it's not comfortable, and just let yourself share that magical moment that happens when you just share an eye gaze. There's actually peer-reviewed research on this that scientists have found that people sharing an eye gaze can go into a trance state. So
Hmm.
that's another thing to start is developing the ability to be able to share an eye gaze with someone you're really close with.
Oh, okay. So it starts with the eyes.
It can start with the eyes, it can start with being more aware of the whole body, and
Yeah.
then you practice. Another practice would be to start with the eyes and share a gaze and see if that gets into a realm that you would consider spiritual. Because for a lot of us, that when you really gaze into another person's eyes, you kind of enter into the realm of the spiritual energy.
Okay. So through the eyes. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about your book series on Tantra. You've written a number of books, and I'm assuming there's a number of themes in there.
Well, all of the themes of my books are personal and spiritual growth.
Mhm.
And my Tantra series started in kind of a funny way. I um I had been studying in a Tantra ashram, and single people there met in a very different way than they do here in America. They all became friends first and then decided if a sexual relationship made sense afterwards. And here in when I moved back to America and wanted to start looking for my next partner, I entered the dating scene here and I found out that friends the friend zone is considered death in dating. You just don't want to be, and
The
I
friends.
friend zone, yeah. And actually research from John Gottman is that 69% of successful couples say that friendship is the most important quality in their relationship. So I started getting this idea that we're looking for the wrong thing if we're not looking for friends when we're dating. That we would because actually the best sex happens when you're really good friends because you can really relax. So
Right.
I wrote this book called Tantric Dating, which was about looking for friends first and so on, and having kind of a spiritual attitude towards dating, which is that I don't want to just be rejecting people. Modern dating is also about swipe left. No, no, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of harsh. So I wrote this book and I didn't think much about this book and I just put it up online. And then a friend of mine called me from Seattle and said, "Do you know your book has been considered one of the top dating books of all time?" I said, "What?" And this it was a big surprise to me because I hadn't entered any contacts, and this organization called Book Authority had considered it one of the top dating books of all time. So I started taking this book a little more seriously, and it started selling really well on Amazon. And I kept being very surprised. So I thought, it was during the pandemic, I thought people like books and series, they like TV shows and series. I'm going to try a little series here on Tantra. And it worked. I wrote two more. I just wrote the fourth one. And they are all people who read one want to read another one. They're very
Right.
small books. You can read them in about an hour. And they're full of introductory stuff about Tantra, relationships, how to talk to your partner, and all these kinds of things. So that has been a surprising bestseller in the those books have been surprising bestsellers in the sacred sexuality category on Amazon.
Really? Wow. So the name of the books are what's the titles so people know?
Well, the whole series is called the Tantric Mastery Series. There's Tantric Dating, Tantric Mating, Tantric Relating, and Tantric Loving.
Okay. So those are the 4.
And there's gonna be 2 more coming, but I'll let you guys, I'll keep you
Yeah.
in suspense about those.
Okay. All right. Well, and they're available on Amazon.
Yes, they are.
Okay. That's great. That's good to know. I'm sure there'll be people want to do that. I really appreciate how you've described this whole tantra thing because I've heard so many different explanations of this, and this seems to be the most grounded, sensible can't even say it, explanation of tantra that I've heard. So let's shift again to I've heard that you do studies on or have been involved in studies on psychedelics and its impact on mental health. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, I'd love to. Um, Back in the days before, LSD became illegal, back in the '60s, this
Yeah.
guy Stan Groff was doing, serious, scientific research on the effects of LSD on alcoholism, on serious mental illness, and they were coming up with some very interesting, uh potentials for healing. And then, as we know, LSD and many other kinds of psychedelics became illegal. there were perhaps some abuses going on, and, the government stopped all research, and, but I had when I was in school, I had been intrigued by that thought because, like a lot of college students, I had taken a few drugs here and there to see what they were about in my curiosity, and I thought these have a wonderful potential for teaching us things and expanding our minds and, maybe breaking down some thoughts that we have that aren't very helpful for us. And then, what's being called the psychedelic renaissance launched with Michael Pollan's book, How to Change Your Mind. And now research is back in full force, coming up with very positive suggestions that LSD, psilocybin, MDMA can have very powerful healing effects. In Los Angeles, at the VA, they were doing studies with veterans who had terrible PTSD. And I have to say, psychologists and marriage and family therapists, we're not really very good at treating PTSD yet. We don't really know how to help. And this MDMA studies were showing this really helped the veterans get over their PTSD symptoms. The
Really?
research was so positive, they were expecting uh, this to be legalized for therapeutic use. It didn't get passed, but that's how positive the research was. And now at Johns Hopkins and back east and so forth, they're doing lots of studies on this research has really blossomed again because it seems that there's a lot of potential for people to get over really difficult diseases. The problem with it that I see and
Yeah.
people who call me is that they think that it's gonna be an instant cure. They're just gonna take LSD and all their problems will disappear. Or they're just gonna take MDMA and be happy for the rest of their life. And it's like these are tools to be used in an ongoing therapy. To process the kind of information you get from these substances, and then how do you, uh, put that into your life and create a better life for yourself?
Yeah, so they're not specifically to be used kinda solo, they're supposed to be used with a therapist and, supervised, I would think. Is that
Well, in
correct?
the therapeutic sense, I mean, people can obviously, if they wanna do psychedelics, that's their business, but when we're doing it therapeutically with specially trained therapists, that's where we have seen scientific evidence that it helps.
I
Now
see.
somebody might go out and do some psilocybin, eat some magic mushrooms by themselves and have a great experience and learn something, so that's fine, but what we're talking about is, it's breaking the law, so I don't wanna say that I'm advocating for breaking the law,
Right.
um, but, under supervised experiences, that's where we're actually getting peer-reviewed research that it's actually helpful. It's not our imagination that it can be therapeutic.
Yeah, what's it doing? I'm just curious, what's it doing for a PTSD patient? Is it calming them? Is it helping them forget about the traumas they experienced? Anything do you know anything about that? Have you
Well,
studied that at all?
my understanding is that, MDMA is it's called a heart opener, so it doesn't make you hallucinate, it just makes your heart you kinda fall in love with everything. You just fall in love with the life, and you look outside, and you know those moments that we've all had when you just have a moment, you're like, "Oh my god, life's so great." It may
Yeah,
last only a second, but you see the trees are so beautiful and the flowers, and you're just looking around. It's that kind of experience for 4 to 6 hours where you're just ecstatically happy, and I think the idea how they do that therapeutically is that you then take the veterans with these horrible experiences, and they're able to look at those experiences, and they don't become beautiful and wonderful, but they're able to see that, maybe they see it in a different way than they saw it before.
I see. So it's kind of a new per it's introducing a new perspective.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it.
Okay, and so there's some memory with this, it sounds like. There's you remember the experience.
I believe that's how they're doing it. I haven't been around the that's
Uh-huh.
they
Yeah.
usually those, experiences are too frightening to remember, so these therapies actually go on for, like, 9 months, and the veteran will be working with the therapist for the whole 9 months, and then within that 9 months, they'll take MDMA a couple of times, and
Uh-huh.
then doing the talk therapy all along, so they're able to talk about the experience, talk about it, see it in a new way, learn some coping skills, and so on.
Wow, that's very interesting. Um, 'Cause isn't MDMA the dating drug? The isn't that the drug that they take at the all-night parties? I don't know. Isn't that
Yeah, at
that's
raves.
ecstasy?
No, ecstasy is MDMA, those are the same things.
Yeah,
So
okay.
they go and rave and fall in love with everybody at the rave. So
Um,
but actually, the MDMA that they use in the therapy is actually, pharmaceutical grade, and what
yeah,
people are taking on the street is ecstasy. Who knows what it is?
right,
Who
right,
knows
that's
what's actually in that? Might be a little bit of MDMA, it might be a lot of MDMA, it might be some who knows what they cut
could
it with.
be fentanyl.
Could be,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
that's
So,
the danger. That's the danger of street drugs anymore, I guess.
yeah.
Not that I'm a proponent of street drugs, but I'm an old guy. I remember marijuana in the lid. Remember when they used to sell marijuana by the lid?
Oh, I do remember that. Lids and, yeah. And I think it was a lot less strong back then too.
I think so. It had a lot of stems and seeds in it all the time.
Yeah, I remember guys going over to guys' houses and they were, using, what do you call those, mesh to kinda shake the seeds and the
Right.
of it.
Yeah, to strain it, to clean it up.
That's right,
Well,
we're dating ourselves.
yes, very much so. Anyway, well, let's talk about since we're old people, but let's talk about
Hey, hey, maybe you
let's
are.
yeah. Well, you said you've been doing this for 30 years, so
I'm
you're
just teasing you, that's right.
yeah, you're not 20 anymore, I know that.
No, I'm not.
Anyway, so as a therapeutic expert in this whole tantra, sex, dating thing, what's your best dating advice to folks of all ages, not just the young, but the old, everybody in between? What's your best dating
For
dating
every
advice?
For everybody, I would say, really think through this idea that science has proven that the most successful relationships, the friendship is the most important quality. So we're
Friendship,
taught not to look for friendship. We're taught to look for somebody who's hot, somebody who whose appearance will look good on our arm. I mean, I like good-looking people as much as anyone, but it's not the best criteria for finding a partner. Maybe
right,
it's good criteria for a wild weekend in going away for a hotel in a weekend, but it's not
right.
the criteria for a relationship. So if you're looking for a relationship, friends first, and that
Friends
means
first.
somebody you can hang out on the couch with, pat them on the butt in Trader Joe's, just hang out and be yourself.
Right, right.
That's
Well,
gonna make the best relationship. It's also, surprisingly, gonna make the best sexual relationship because when you're with a friend, with your best friend, your best sexual friend, you can totally relax and be yourself. If you're
right,
having to worry about performing and are they gonna worry about my, love handles here, and are they
right,
gonna get rid of me when I'm get a few wrinkles, you're not gonna be able to relax and make love in a beautiful, loving way.
right,
So, if you're
right.
with your best friend, the sky's the limit.
And what I heard you say earlier was that in in the United States anyway, that dating isn't based on friends, right? It's there's a different friend category.
Yeah, they always say, "Oh, no, they put me in the friend zone," which means they don't wanna date me anymore, they'd rather be friends with me. And I've used that excuse before I thought this through.
Uh-huh.
Let's just be friends. I'm not find you sexually attractive. Let's just be friends. And this is really a misunderstanding of what it takes to make a good relationship.
Wow, interesting. So let's talk about soulmates for a minute. What's what's the secrets to a soulmate relationship, and how does one attract a soulmate?
Well, I think that you what they say in spirituality is you attract what you are.
Hmm.
So if you think that you're attracting people, for example, who can't communicate well, guess who can't communicate well?
Uh-huh.
If
So
you
we teach what we most need to learn.
I like that. That's true. So the thing with a soulmate is if you want to attract someone who's a little bit more evolved human being than you've been dating so far, you need to look at yourself and see how you might wanna grow a little. For myself, I found that I wasn't as loving a person as I thought I was. I thought I was a loving person. I had friends, I had a cat, I gave money to charity. But when I really looked at myself, and this is in my tantric dating book, I realized I'm very judgmental of the men that I'm dating. And that is not very loving. They're not, I would date somebody, I go, oh, not good looking enough, not rich enough. This is called
Right.
normal. Not doesn't exercise enough or whatever. I'll be just very judgmental like this. And, your friends will encourage you to date like that. And all of a sudden I realized as a spiritual person, that is unloving behavior. And that's why I'm not attracting someone who really loves me. I need to become a more loving person if I'm going to attract a soulmate relationship where there's a lot of love. And so I started using dating to challenge myself to stop being so judgmental, to be more loving towards the men I was dating, even if I was never gonna see them again, which most people you date, you never see again. I could still be a loving person. We
Right.
have this idea we can only be loving to people if they meet our criteria, and that's not a very spiritual attitude.
Yeah,
So,
I'm seeing that more and more in our culture. It's like an intolerance of others.
yeah, I think it's growing too. So I just decided that if I'm gonna have a soulmate, I don't want a soulmate that's judgmental. I don't wanna be judgmental. So I had to really change myself, and when I did, I attracted someone of a different caliber who I was able to create a soulmate relationship with. The problem
Right,
was with me, I wasn't loving enough. Even though I was normally loving, I could see that that wasn't gonna be good enough.
right. So how would you describe loving? I mean, you kinda talked about how you were and what you weren't, but is it intolerance to others? Is it,
Mm,
you know,
interesting.
what is that distinction?
I think that, I was judgmental about things that don't matter. I
Uh-huh,
wasn't able to see the human being behind we could say behind the mask, and so I
right,
started concentrating on who is this person, behind this mask? What are my silly ideas that have been taught to me by the culture? Like, this is good looking, this isn't good looking, this matters, this doesn't matter. All these things that I'd been taught about what matters in the dating world. And I realized what really matters to me is if this person I'm dating is kind. That became my number one criteria. Not all the things I'd been told were my number one criteria. I thought, what evidence that this person is a kind person? Because then if they're gonna be kind in their life, then they're gonna be kind with me, and we can share that together.
wow, okay, so kindness, mutual kindness.
I think so.
Ah, that makes a lot of sense, I like that.
And I don't
Uh,
think that's often prioritized as a most important quality in other people, especially not today. So, I think if we continue to value kindness, then we can treat our neighbors that way as well as when we're dating, but also our neighbors and our colleagues and people we see in the grocery store. We can just remember that people are not as they appear. They're often, uh, just another human being that's worthy of being kind to and loving towards.
right. Wow, that's really good. So, what are the just the last one I have for you is what are the top 3 mistakes people make in dating? I mean, we talked about the lack of kindness and the friend zone, but what else? What are the top th what are the top 3?
I think it's not dating enough.
Okay.
People expect to have 1 or 2 dates and find the love of their life. I went on 150 first dates to
Oh
find
my
my
god.
so
Yeah,
I think that you, need to understand that you need to learn you're gonna have to learn some things about yourself to be able to attract a soulmate, not attract the same kind of problem you attracted last time. So I think people don't date enough. Um, they don't try to make friends. They don't look for that friendship quality. And I think that they, get fooled by appearances and don't wait long enough to see if this person was just, I used to fall in love at first sight,
right.
and, that led me into a lot of relationships that did not work very well.
I can believe it.
So I
Wow.
decided I'm gonna notice that I'm attracted to this person, but then I'm gonna find out if they're kind or not.
Right.
instead of
Uh,
just jumping in because I fell in love at first sight.
and I would think that one of the ways to measure kindness is to observe behavior with
Absolutely.
as a third party, how somebody reacts to somebody in a restaurant or you know,
Exactly,
how
exactly. There was someone I fell in love with at first sight, and then we went out, and he was being rude to the waiter.
yeah.
And anyone who's gonna be rude to the waiter is gonna be rude to me. That's not gonna work.
Yeah, yeah.
I
That
think whether or not anyone, does any volunteer work or in some way, wants to give is a good sign of kindness. My husband, when I met him, was, showing up once a month to help a group of young men, I thought that's a beautiful thing to do. So
that's right.
we
Yeah.
start looking for something a little different to, find out what kinda human being this is.
So I've heard a couple things from you, but one of the big ones, the big message here is eliminate the self-judgment.
The judgment of others, I think.
Yeah,
Self-judgment,
but
the judgment of others. I was very judgmental of men, basically, well, everyone. I was kinda taught I think we're all taught by our culture. I think social media teaches us to be very judgmental if we weren't
yeah.
already, and, so I'm addicted to social media just like everyone else, but I need to notice that it's encouraging me to have values about people that aren't very kind.
Right. Well, Catherine, our time is almost up, and I really wanna thank you for stopping by today to share this with us. I found it very interesting, and I hope some people find it interesting. How does one find you, or, do you wanna be found?
It's kinda hard to not find me if you just type in my name. I'm on, I have a website, Catherine Auman. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I have a ton of videos on there you could,
Okay.
explore and so forth, so
And that's Auman, Auman, right?
right, and Catherine's with a C.
With a C, Catherine,
Yeah, so I'd love
Catherine
for you
Auman.
to connect. I'd love to connect with you.
Okay, very good, and, well, Catherine, thanks again for joining us today, and, I really appreciate your insight.
Thanks, Johnny. You are a great host. Thanks for having me.
Alright, you take care. You have been listening to Minutes with Mango, Life in Motion. Subscribe to hear a new and unique guest each week as they comment on their life's journey and share experiences with lifestyle, culture, and career. You can always find us at minuteswithmango.com.